go with that one. Alrighty. So, going to tell the tale of Roger Sharpe and the pinball industry. Figure today, get the mustache, get my magic jacket, and go back a little bit. You may notice in the graphic, the oldest game listed here is Hurdy-Gurdy. That is the game that Roger Sharpe lists as the first one he ever really mastered back when he was in college. That was studying up in Madison, Wisconsin. That's where he really learned that he loved pinball. The first game he ever owned was Buckaroo. He wanted Cowpoke because Cowpoke is the Add-A-Ball version, but Buckaroo is good, and it actually ties in with the last special I did for Wayne Nayans. This is a Wayne Nayans game, and I can imagine Roger Sharpe. I can imagine Roger Sharpe in that Madison, Wisconsin bar playing Buckaroo, learning his flipper skills, learning how to plunge, the importance of that ABCD up at the top. This is a great. Actually, would have been in his apartment as a student, I think, because this was his first pinball machine. Anyway, great game to have as a first game. Great launch into understanding where Roger Sharpe became tied with pinball in general. The man is synonymous with the industry, and he's done so much more than a lot of people realize. So, I figure starting here with Buckaroo, which brought him into the pinball family. I guess it would be Hurdy-Gurdy because that's the one he really remembers playing. But anyway, this is, early career pinball stuff. During this time, he was in Wisconsin, so he didn't have to deal with any of the outlaws and any of the gambling that was associated with pinball that had it banned since the 40s in a lot of cities. So anyway, we did Buckaroo last time. That's just a good place to start. So I am going to jump ahead. So at this point, Roger Sharpe is working for. He's finished college. He's gone to New York City, and he still loves pinball, but it's illegal in the city of New York. So he's working for, I want to say GM, but I can't remember the name of the magazine. GC? Is that the men's magazine? I'm so bad. I should have this as a note. Anyway, the big magazine. And here he is. His big article he's contributed so far is a guide to buying bicycles. And, his editor says, "Hey, you've been writing pretty good stuff. What do you want to do next?" And he says, "Well, pinball. You know what? Maybe I can get a pinball machine out of this." Because he's in New York and he's found some underground pinball machines and, had to deal with that. But, he thought maybe by getting into pinball, he would be able to, get one of his own and have it in New York City. Man, I can't believe I'm drawing a blank on that magazine name. So, he's at the New York City, it's like a pinball expo. It's a trade show. And, he's trying to learn all he can about the pinball machines. And he knows a fair amount. He's played a lot of pinball. And, so, and he's kind of shown off because he's practiced a lot. He's pretty good. And, he swings by the Williams booth where they're showing off Big Ben. It's the place where you introduce new games. This is 1975. And so Roger's like, oh, hey, I see that this has elements, and he's rattling off the game elements that Big Ben uses, the split drop targets, and he's cleaning up on the machine. He's got some skills. And Harry Williams is there. And next thing you know, they start talking, and he says, oh, yeah, I'm writing this big article. I'm writing an article for... oh, man. It's not a small magazine. How can I... Just 2-letter initial. Big Ben tolls. So, anyway. Roger Sharpe is now getting known. He's doing this research. And thanks to playing Big Ben, is now in the good graces of Harry Williams. So, and they're talking, and I mean, this is it's a neat game. It's fun to have that connection to this, even though it's not, part of the actual story. Well, it is part of the story. So this is where he met Harry Williams, playing Big Ben at the Pinball Expo. So I'm racing through the first few years because this stuff is pretty well known. Everybody's talked about it. You can see the photo there. What I'm getting up to is Roger Sharpe getting called by the pinball industry, and they're saying, hey, we've got this big lawsuit going on. We need somebody to come in and be a non-industry person talking about pinball and show how this is not a game of chance, but it's actually a game of skill. It's meant for entertaining. And so they've got El Dorado set up there. All the cameras, all the lights. And it's a fun story all by itself to hear how antagonistic some of the interview goes, and it's like, Roger's looking at this saying, okay, you know what, I can do El Dorado. I can explain the drop targets and show the skill shots, and so he was thinking, okay, this is not too bad. So anyway, Roger starts to get, he's had his interview and he's getting ready to go play some pinball in front of the press and significant people from New York City. And as he's about to pull the plunger on El Dorado, he's like, wait, no, because the guy, like I said, one of the guys is really antagonistic. And to throw his weight around, he's like, you know what, we're going to use the backup game. We're going to use Bank Shot, which I don't actually have Bank Shot, but what I do have is I have Sure Shot, which is the, I forget which one's the Add-A-Ball. I always get the two mixed up with each other. But anyway, they're basically the same game. So here's Sure Shot, pool-themed game, and Roger's like, oh, I can even tell a story with this. And he explains, how you get 5 balls, and there's 5 lanes at the top. And part of it is him, pointing out that you have to get 1 rollover each ball if you want to do well in the game and complete your rack. So, pretty famously, he actually calls out the skill shot. He's got 1 light left at the top, and he holds the plunger. And he says, well, now this is where the skill comes in, because I have to adjust the plunger. It points out the little markers next to it and saying, this is where you have to figure out where you're going to plunge to, because you see how hard it is to get the ball back up to the top. And sure enough, that ball went right down where Roger Sharpe called it. I did get the 5. Which, and that's like Babe Ruth pointing to the, they call it the Babe Ruth shot, because of the famous home run of Babe Ruth pointing over the fence where he was going to send that to. But yeah, so a lot of the people telling the story about Roger Sharpe kind of end here because he saves the day. Pinball is legal again in New York City, and he goes on to testify in Ohio and a couple other cities and states where it's been outlawed, but through a quick demonstration he can very clearly point out that this is a game of skill, and you have planning, and you can do things. It was a unanimous decision to allow pinball in public places again. So anyway, that is the big deal. So now we've got Roger Sharpe very famously involved in the pinball industry. And he's like, GQ, that's the name of the magazine. How can I forget GQ magazine? Anyway, that's what he was writing for, is GQ magazine. And as he's writing this article, his manuscript keeps getting bigger and bigger. Oh, I missed it. Keeps getting bigger and bigger, and next thing you know, he's working on a book. So still connected to the pinball industry, Roger Sharpe does a run of 5,000 books about the pinball industry. Good luck finding one for any sort of reasonable price. The first run, there were 5,000 printed, and Roger, not realizing what he committed to, actually hand-signed every single copy of the first run of that book. So if you find Roger Sharpe's first ever book, he's written like 14 books, but only the first one was about pinball. So anyway, while working on this book, Roger gets to know people in the industry. He's and people know him too, obviously, because he was instrumental in bringing pinball out of these shady, illegal dens, and giving us our arcades in the mall. And overall, it was a good time. Pinball was good. So anyway, instead of seeing Sure Shot, you should think about Bank Shot. Bank Shot, still a pool game. Yeah, and that one was the Add-A-Ball, whereas this one's the replay version. Oh, I can't get that one. I don't have the same skill level as Roger to call my shot. So here I am without the one ball. Only ball I need to finish. Oh, almost there. So, what happens next? Where does this go? How am I going to do a whole special if I've gone 15 minutes into this and am now talking about what a lot of people think of as the highlight of the career? Well, I'm happy to say that's just the most notorious point of his career. Roger went on to become a major part of the industry. Like I said, writing a book, and then the next thing he did was in 1977, he got to work on a pinball machine. So went over to Stern, worked with Sam Stern and Mike Cuban, and made, where is it? I can find it. Stingray, Star Trek Stingray, there we go. So 1977 Stern game called Stingray. It's an okay game. It's got some fun to it, and it definitely shows that Roger's part of the industry now. He's got a successful pinball machine under his belt. This game is interesting in that it was one of two games that Stern made with an optional set of ROM, or basically you could flip a dip switch and it would switch from being a 4-player game to a 2-player game. Apparently there were some markets that wanted 2-player games instead of the 4 players. Hey Wax, good to see you. So, even though there were 3,000 of these games made, some of them were shipped out with two-player back glasses, while the majority of them would go out with the 4-player back glasses. I looked around, I couldn't find any actual numbers, but if you see a 2-player Stingray out there, that's a little less common, and it's just a matter of flipping a switch to make it 4-player, and then you got to get your extra 2 displays and stuff. Sure thing. So this is a fun little game. You got your 3 pop bumpers. You got this neat little saucer in the middle. Some orbits. I like orbits. So Stingray is a solid game. Welcome to the industry. And for 1977, a solid state machine, cutting edge stuff. I don't know how much longer I can do with this mustache here. So, 1977 was also the end of... I'm sorry, that was the beginning of Stern. But for whatever reason, I haven't found out where this went. Instead of doing another game with Stern, Roger went on to work with a company called Game Plan. And Game Plan, this one's... Where did it go? I really should have just put them into a folder, but anyway, I've got them all installed. So Sharpshooter, 1979. 2 years go by. Rogers still has the itch to design some pinball machines. I'm going to point out that mustache on that back glass. Yes, that is Roger Stern on the back, Roger Sharpe on the back glass of his own pinball machine. And the young lady on the right is his wife. So Roger is still thinking about what it takes to make a good game. What did he do this? So this was with Joe Juice and Ed Sebula. He worked together with them. Oh, that's right. This one, the plunger's not fired up. It's a kind of fun layout. He very obviously borrows heavily from some Gottlieb designs with the row of drop targets, and your 2 pop bumpers over here on the right. He's right up front with saying these are some of the elements that he liked from games and put what he likes in the game. I'm not going to play this one too long because we're going to play Sharpshooter 2 in a few minutes. But notice the lighting progressions. Notice the simple sounds. And of course Roger and his wife up there on the back glass. So this is fun. Oh, Uncle Toybox is out tonight. This is the magical Roger Sharpe show. So celebrating. Oh, and one of the things I forgot to mention. The day they legalized pinball in New York City is August 1st, which is why we call August 1st National Pinball Day. It also happens to be Roger Sharpe's birthday. So it's just a bit of nice synchronicity that those events lined up like that. So anyway, this is a fun little game. I do like the right flipper area not having a drain. And it's neat to see another game company, Game Plan. So anyway, this was Sharpshooter. This is the beginning of Roger Sharpe's... I'll finish out the game. This is the beginning of Roger Sharpe's career with Game Plan. Yeah, definitely a fun game. I've played worse. Okay, so there we go. 145, not a very good game. Okay, so where are we going from Sharpshooter? Next up with Sharpshooter. 2 years later, still with Game Plan, there was a prototype. Now, this is kind of fun. This is where, again, I love virtual pinball because I have never seen one of these in person. They only made 10. Where is it? There we go. So, and I'm going to apologize up front. I couldn't find a Visual Pinball 10. This is a older simulator using Visual Pinball 9. So you'll notice that the graphics aren't as crisp, and the plunger doesn't work with it. The physics aren't as good. And but you know, it still lets us see a game that, you know, even though it's not awesome, is more than we would get just about anywhere else. So, and I'm sure that the final release would have had more sound. And this does seem like a kind of fun layout. Definitely a wide body. Yeah, and I don't know the real story about why this didn't go anywhere. I know one of them sold just last year on Pinside. That was kind of an interesting story as well. But if you're looking for a piece of history that I guess wasn't really a finished game, this would be it. From Northland Amusements. So 2 sets of drop targets. We got a saucer at the top. I love the little hidden alley on the right. That little bouncy area. That's kind of fun. Does need more noises. And I'm sure if it had had a full commercial release, it would have noises. But anyway, Global Warfare, 1981. Now, at the same time, we've got Global Warfare. I'm going to stop that because it's kind of horrible. In addition to working with Game Plan, Roger also went back and worked with Williams again. This time, he worked with Barry Orsler and Steve Epstein and made one of the greats of 1981, Baracura. So this, from what I understand, Steve Epstein and Roger Sharpe did the layout, and then Barry put together a whitewood, and then they worked on the rule set. And this is actually a pretty fun game. I've got a couple of friends who have these, and I always look forward to playing them. One of the things I do enjoy with it is the progressive drop targets. If you hit them out of order, then they just pop right back up again. So you actually have to work on spelling out Baracura. And actually you can spell it in 2 spots too. Hit that. But some neat stuff going on here. You've got the changing lanes for the rollovers at the top. If I can plunge and get up there. That's good news there. Come on, A. That was the wrong A. How about the B now? Ah, that should have been the B. Okay, so, hey, oh, it almost made it. So yeah, Baracura was not hugely successful. I mean, they made like just over 2,300 of them. I didn't get any of the drop target progressions. Okay. So and that's Baracura. I've showed Baracura before as well. Anyway, it's neat to see Roger kept on designing and was part of this iconically strange pinball machine. So, moving ahead, he goes back to game plan. And he says, hey, you know what? I think we've got things we can do better with Sharpshooter. So let's revisit Sharpshooter. And we'll make Sharpshooter 2. Okay. So we're going to make Sharpshooter 2. And what we're going to change is the back glass. It's going to have me and my wife on it still. And new artwork for the playfield. And some new sounds and new artwork. Or new rules. And it is a better game. It's not a very different game, but it does have more polish. If you get a choice between a Sharpshooter and a Sharpshooter 2, you probably want the Sharpshooter 2, just because it has that extra time, that extra polish, and a lot of that great Gottlieb influence to it. It is a fun play field, and it has decent rules, and it sounds better than the original. There we go. Got my drop targets. Now the spinner's lit. And I get to go over the... Oh, did not hit the spinner. So just working my way through the drops a second time. And this is a nice casual game. I know in tournament you have to make the game harder to play for a lot of the good players. Because that right drain makes it easy to keep the ball in play longer. And I've seen people take a long time playing Sharpshooter 2. So yeah, just something nice and peaceful about playing this. I like the rhythm of the game. There's a little bit of stop-start to it because of you trap things up. It does have that orbit if you want to get some speed going. Should shoot that now while it's lit. There we go. Finished the drops the second time. But what I want is that spinner. I love that horse galloping sound. And I wonder what the conversation was like with his wife, because before with the artwork, she's down on the ground clinging to his leg, and here she's got his back. They're back to back with their 6 shooters, more as equals. So it's fun seeing that change in the backlash design. And I would like to, if I had a chance to talk with him, I would probably ask him about where that grew, because I haven't heard him talk about that in any of the interviews. But that's something that I do feel would be an interesting story. So, Sharpshooter. This takes us up to the next game is the end of game plan. And it was not a successful game, and I had to go back to Visual Pinball 9 for this one as well. It has not yet been reproduced on a new platform or transferred over. So the artwork's a bit rough, the physics a bit rough, but we get to see this because there's only 400 of them again. I will point out, look in that back glass, and on that horseback, you see with that big mustache, Mr. Roger Sharpe. And held by one of the Cyclops, there's his wife. So whatever lessons were learned for Sharpshooter 2, we've again got Roger coming to the rescue of his wife in Cyclops, or Cyclopes if you want. And again, they only made 400 of these. For 1985, this is pretty low rent. 1985, the games were getting a lot more advanced. This maybe 81 or 82, but by this time, this is borrowing heavily. Oh wait, that's right. This is borrowing from. I see a little bit of. What's the game I'm thinking of? And my ROM is not good. It only gives me 1 ball per game. That's fun. That's okay. I don't know that I want to play too much of this, but it's neat to be able to see it. And, jeez. Come on, we can do this. Let's do 1 ball, and at least I'm going to finish the drops. There it is. And the game I'm thinking of is Centaur, because the targets literally say orbs. I mean, that is what they had in Centaur. And, as well, some of the right orbit kind of, if you look at it, funny is there. But it doesn't have the depth that you enjoy with Centaur. So, yeah, with this, I mean, I can see why people don't rush to emulate it and build a new one. But, again, neat to see. Definitely a part of Roger Sharpe. So now we've got a guy who plays pinball in college, goes on to GQ magazine, and through an article he's writing for GQ, saves pinball in New York City. Leveraging that, he becomes a pinball designer and he works in the pinball industry. This is neat. Now, this is the last game that he was involved with in the design of. So, game plan, 1985. 400 of them made, and that's Cyclops. But that is not where the end of the story is, because from here, Roger went to work for Williams. And one of the things he realized, Bally was kind of doing it, was licensed games. Now, Williams had never done any licensed titles. They always did original titles, saying, why would we want to pay money to play, pay money that we don't have to for a pinball machine? So Roger convinced him. He's like, look, we just bought Bally, and and the executives are saying, well, why should we look to Bally as a success model? Because we just bought them cheap. They went under. But being persistent, Roger went out and he got the rights to do Elvira and the Party Monsters. So Roger was instrumental in securing these rights, and allowing us to have. And it says Bally on the back glass, but remember, this was released in 1989, and in spite of the back glass saying Bally, this is a Williams pinball machine. And this was the first licensed Williams game, even though it has the Bally title, and Bally had experience with license. And more importantly, it also shows that Roger Sharpe could secure these licenses. I understand he was involved with the licensing for some of the other classics like The Addams Family, and I'm trying to remember what else there was. But yeah, so now, instead of designing, instead of saving, he's now working on getting us licenses, which it's kind of fun because I do know some pinball purists that prefer the unlicensed games. They look at the modern list of games coming out and say, "Oh, whatever happened to our unlicensed titles?" But the fact is, the licensed games sell. More people put money in them. And the pinheads may have fond memories of the original original themes. And there's definitely some fantastic games with original themes to it. But by and large, the ones that get the most coin drop at the arcade and make the most money for the vendors are the games with the licenses. And at the end of the day, this is a business, and we do want them making money. So we will continue to see licensed games for a long time to come. And part of that is because Roger saw the success that Bally had with their licenses and pushed to have licensing, which then opened the door for other licensed titles moving forward. So this is pretty cool. I am going to take the mustache off before I play my last game. The last game, oh man, I can talk again. Okay, so the last game I'm going to cover for today in this Roger Sharpe special is The Wizard of Oz, which again is another license secured by Roger Sharpe. Now, interesting, the first video game license. This would be kind of fun. I wonder if anybody's familiar with what the first video game license was that was ever used. Where is it? There we go. So the actual first video game with pro sports licensing, I should say, was the NFL Blitz. Or is it NBA? Oh, I'm bad. I should... Anyway, no, it was the NBA came before the NFL. That's right. And the reason I've got them kind of mixed up in my head is because Roger is a hidden character in both of those games.
Just try.
Wow, you gotta work to make that shot. So, yeah, no hidden game here, but Roger did work with Jersey Jack to get the licensing for the Wizard of Oz. And this game is special to me because I had been out of pinball. I mean, I'd played virtual pinball and stuff, like the Pinball arcade. But I never really considered that to be real pinball at the time. I mean, the games were fun and I enjoyed it, but I wasn't aware. There was no arcades near me after I first immigrated to Canada. And and I didn't know anybody with pinball machines. So even though I had many years of playing pinball, I also had a big gap in my pinball playing. And it was funny because I found out about local tournaments, and the games everybody was talking about, their favorites were a lot of the ones I remember being awesome from the late 80s. There were some modern Sterns, not a lot of them. And I honestly did not like the feel of them. They're very different than the old Williams games were. But then I found one of my friends had Wizard of Oz, and this made me feel like pinball had jumped ahead to the next generation. Prior to this game, the games were always designed to go on location, where you wouldn't get the opportunity to play the game in depth very much. They were getting rotated through, and that kind of design really needs to have short turnover. It shouldn't have long game times, and it should be immediately accessible. Wizard of Oz is not immediately accessible. This is a challenging game to learn. It has, you can go to the Jersey Jack website, download the manual, and see how much craziness is baked into the rule set with this thing. It's like you have to complete these 4 shots to unlock this thing. And honestly, for a casual game, it would be no fun. But realizing that pinball machines are now transitioning out of arcades and into people's basements, this game really was the first one that I played where I felt I wouldn't get tired of it right away, because there's so much to learn. There's you can do some simple stuff and get some decent scores, but if you really want to play Wizard of Oz, you have to take the time to get to know the rule set. You have to, read that, take a look at that flowchart. Understand what, the really good players understand what the different colored horses mean. And then the even better players realize that you don't need to have them for a good score.
Jackpot.
There we go. I got one more to go to finish the Tin Man. That's that red roll over there is. So now I should have the ball locked lit. That's ball 3, which makes the end of the game. Which, this is really my shortest... Oh, I got an extra ball. So this is weighing in as one of my shortest specials. But with International Pinball Day, I think this is an important one to watch. Important to see how it's not all about just pinball design or all about writing or about... there's a lot more to a career with pinball than just being a designer or being the head of the company. And I think Roger's done a really good job in his time in the industry showing us where, what you can do, how you can make a career out of
initials.
it. His sons are still involved. He's still active in the pinball community. There's a really cool, it's over 2 hour long interview with Roger where he goes over a lot of what I've talked about in more detail. He talks about his childhood. He talks about what it's like to grow up, no pinball as a kid, pinball in university, go to New York, no pinball, find some underground pinball, and then find it gone in a raid. It's a neat story, and it goes on and on. Did I say Roger Stern again? It's Roger Sharpe. So, anyway, this is good stuff. I think I'm gonna finish out going back to Sharpshooter 2, which I think is the best of the games that Roger designed. So Sharpshooter 2, game plan 1983. Back to back with his wife, smoking 6 shooters. And a solid rule set. I mean, this is... Let's spell the shooter here, so I light my spinner. So, and it's interesting because I think about rule sets. I think about things that could have made this game even better. Would be moving the points for the targets with the shooter. Okay, so it gave it to me. I gotta figure out what's going on with my plunger today. It's like none of these games are giving me full plunges. You want me to go back to Baracura? I can go back to Baracura. Baracura is a classic game. It's funny. Part of the reason I and so it's funny because half of his games have him on the back glass. I think of that being one of the points. Oh no, Baracura is a good game, and arguably a better game than Sharpshooter. I just happen to like Sharpshooter better. Like I said, I think this more embodies a lot of the game design that Roger's gone through. Well, I'm considering 2 of his games use the exact same playfield. Yeah, there we go. And, oh, he gets the spinner. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to end this particular stream, and I'm going to come back and do more of my normal stuff. I just want to have a nice clear finish for the end of the Roger Sharpe special. And I don't know, will I keep the magic jacket? I think I will. Not a great score. I mean, I know people can do a lot better on Sharpshooter. But, anyway, to Roger Sharpe, thanks for being who you are. You've definitely left your mark on the industry in a number of ways. It's great having you as part of this hobby. So, for anybody who's tuned in, stay tuned. I'll be back in just a few minutes. I'm just going to change a few things around. But we'll do more normal stuff.